Warriors, welcome back to Gods of Alliance. If you're here, it means you want power, knowledge, and control over the battlefield. This is not luck. This is strategy. Let's break the game together. Today, we are stepping into one of the most dangerous duos in the entire game. Not just strong, not just meta, but a duo that forces the fight to be played on their terms. Kayla and Aidan. Because this is not just about damage. This is not just about survival. This is about a loop, a cycle that keeps repeating. Burn, die, revive, grow stronger, and do it again. And once that loop starts, most teams don't survive it. Kayla dives into the fight with zero hesitation, burning herself and everything around her, shredding armor, building power as the fight continues. Aidan stands behind her, not just healing, but enabling that chaos, bringing her back, scaling her, turning every mistake into another opportunity to keep going. And when you build around that correctly, you don't just have a team, you have a system. So today, we're breaking down the top Kayla and Aidan teams, but not just listing them. We're explaining why they work, how they win, and what makes them dangerous. And we're starting with a team that doesn't give the enemy time to breathe. Julius, Kayla, Polaris, Peech, and Aidan. This is pure amplification. Julius does what he always does best. He stabilizes the front, absorbs pressure, and gives Kayla the time she needs to start the cycle. Aidan keeps that cycle alive, feeding Kayla with sustain and resurrection, making sure she never truly leaves the fight. But the real power here comes from Polaris and Peech. Polaris doesn't just control, she amplifies. Her stuns slow the enemy down, but more importantly, her damage amplification turns every hit into something heavier, something harder to survive. And then Peech strips armor and boosts physical attack, which means Kayla doesn't just hit, she cuts through. So now you have a situation where every ability Kayla uses is amplified, every strike is stronger, and every cycle becomes harder to stop. This team doesn't rely on tricks. It multiplies power and overwhelms. Now we shift into something more chaotic. Kayla, Soleil, Fólio, Polaris, and Aidan. This is not balance. This is pressure. From the very first seconds, the battlefield becomes unstable. Kayla dives in. Soleil starts applying pressure with burn and protection, and suddenly, the enemy is dealing with constant damage from multiple sources. Then Fólio enters the equation, and everything breaks. Formations collapse, positioning becomes irrelevant, targets become harder to lock, and the enemy starts losing control of the fight. And Polaris once again amplifies everything, turning that chaos into real damage. So what you get here is not just damage, it's confusion, it's disruption, it's a fight where the enemy cannot stabilize. And in the middle of all that, Kayla keeps burning, keeps scaling, keeps coming back, and Aidan makes sure it never stops. Now we go into precision. Julius, Kayla, Yasmine, Goose, and Aidan. This is where chaos meets execution. Julius holds the line. Kayla spreads pressure across the battlefield, but Yasmine ends fights. While Kayla creates chaos, Yasmine focuses on one target at a time, eliminating key threats with precision. And this combination is extremely difficult to deal with, because the enemy has to survive both wide damage and focused assassination. Goose boosts critical hits and provides healing, making both Kayla and Yasmine even more dangerous, increasing their output and helping them survive longer. And Aidan, as always, keeps the loop alive. This is a high-tempo team, constantly applying pressure from different angles, forcing the enemy into mistakes. Now we slow things down, but in a very dangerous way. Julius, Kayla, Tempus, Fólio, and Aidan. This is control. Pure tempo manipulation. Tempus changes the rhythm of the fight. He delays actions, slows reactions, and creates windows where the enemy simply cannot respond in time. And this is where Kayla becomes even more effective. Because when the enemy cannot react, She burns freely. Every second of delay becomes more damage, more scaling, more pressure. Fólio adds disruption, making sure the enemy never regains structure, while Julius stabilizes and Aidan sustains. This team doesn't rush. It controls. It forces the fight into a slower pace, where Kayla dominates. And now, the final team. Julius, Kayla, Xe'Sha, Peech, and Aidan. This is balance, but deadly balance. Julius anchors. Kayla and Peech apply physical pressure, stripping armor and scaling damage, while Aidan sustains the entire system. But Xe'Sha brings the second layer. Magic damage. Execution from the backline. So now the enemy is not just dealing with physical pressure. They are being attacked from both sides. Armor is broken, magic defense is punished, and the team starts collapsing under dual pressure. This is what makes this composition so dangerous. It doesn't rely on one type of damage. It breaks you, no matter how you defend. So warriors, what do we learn from all of this? These teams are different, but they all follow the same core principle. Kayla creates chaos. Aidan sustains it, and the rest of the team amplifies it. Some teams focus on control, some focus on damage, some focus on disruption, but they all feed the same loop, and that loop is what makes this duo so dangerous. Because once it starts, it doesn't stop, and if the enemy cannot break it early, they lose. Warriors, this is how we play the game. Not randomly, not blindly, with knowledge, with precision, with control. We don't just build teams, we build systems. So if you want more breakdowns like this, if you want to stay ahead of the meta instead of chasing it, make sure you subscribe, follow the journey, and be part of what we're building here. Because this is just the beginning. Let's break the game together.